Hello and welcome. I'm glad that you can join us. In this video, we will be discussing home fire safety. My name is Joel Gay, and about 4.5 to 5 years ago, I started a consulting company called Rapid Readiness Consulting. Our primary focus is disaster and emergency preparedness, and we also provide the sale of emergency kits, the type of kits you keep in your home, your car, place of work, and school. We will be discussing 6 topics in this video, and they are fires, causes of home fires, prevention of home fire alert systems and evacuation planning, home fire suppression equipment and methods, and how to use a fire extinguisher. Now, in order to keep these videos under 10 minutes each, I have decided to divide this video on home fire safety into 2 parts. Fire is a product of a combustion reaction. It needs 3 things to actually grow and thrive: heat, oxygen, and a fuel source. There are about 2 ways in which you can start a fire, or a fire can be ignited either through a spark or through what's called spontaneous combustion. Now, spontaneous combustion simply means the heat on a fuel source increases so drastically that the fuel source ignites. A good example of that is if you use a magnifying glass against a fuel source. The heat from the sun is focused on that particular object, and as it intensifies and grows, that fuel source would ignite. Another way to start a fire is through a spark, and anything like, for instance, using a match. When you strike that match, it's the heat that causes the combustion of the tip of the match, which has a very highly combustible fuel source, and that usually is it's called phosphorus. Now, that phosphorus, once the heat is ignited through that spark which is caused by friction, that ignition causes the wood to burn, and this is how you get a fire going. And now I will address the main causes and prevention of home fires. According to the National Fire Protection Agency, there are 3 main causes of home fires: cooking, as a result of the unattended stove; heating equipment, like the space heaters; and faulty electrical wiring. Of those 3, the one that holds the number 1 spot is cooking, or the unattended stove. And since we have all been quarantined to a certain extent, there are lots of distractions that can lure us away from the stove while we're cooking. You have, for instance, the kids and the spouse acting up, a phone call, etc. There's a lot, and once we have been distracted, or we forget that we have something on the burner cooking, when that thing that we're cooking reaches a boiling point, this is when danger can potentially happen, because once things starts boiling, it starts spilling over and spilling onto an open flame, and that, whatever it is, could also add extra fuel to the fire. And remember, fire needs 3 things to thrive and grow: oxygen, which is all around us; a fuel source, which is what's spilling onto the fire itself; and heat. And of course, with fire comes heat. So with those 3 ingredients right there on the stove, that fire will grow. Fire in general has a very insatiable appetite. Now, the prevention of this particular kind of home fire resulting from an unattended stove is quite simple to remedy. And all you have to do is to remain engaged with what you're cooking. If you need to venture from the stove, have someone take your place while you're doing whatever it is you need to do. Also, be sure to have a fire extinguisher close by, and that should be in general anyway. In our next video series, the part 2, we will talk about fire extinguishers and how to use them. Now, the second most common cause of home fires result from heating equipment like space heaters. Those of you who live in warmer climates, this probably won't be an issue for you, but for those of you who do live in cool climates where heating is a necessity during those winter months, this is extremely important, especially if you have space heaters, if you use space heaters. The placement of those space heaters within the room is also important, because most fires start from the ignition of a fuel source and the buildup of heat through those space heaters. Obviously, the space heaters provide the heat, and if it is touching, say for instance, a curtain or a piece of bedding, a blanket, that becomes fuel. And as the heat builds, with the presence of fuel, it will eventually ignite and you will have a fire. Now, in order to prevent fires from space heaters, the best practice is to be sure that there are no fuel sources close to or around your space heaters if you're using space heaters. And that simply is making sure that the space heater is located in a space in your bedroom or in any room that is free from debris, free from any type of clothing material or any type of material that can potentially be used as fuel. If you have a home that has a central heating system, best advice and practice I can give you guys is to have a professional come out and service your furnace at least once a year, making sure that it is running at its optimal capacity. And the third common cause of home fires comes from faulty electrical wiring. The evidence of this can be portrayed in a myriad of ways, some of which are the flickering of your light. You turn on an appliance and other appliances cut off, or lights tend to dim. Another great indicator is that you hear little cracking sounds coming from the light fixture itself, or you see sparks emanating from the outlet or from a switch. Those are some great indicators that there is faulty wiring occurring somewhere in the home. The best way to prevent this from turning into an inferno, I would highly recommend that you locate your circuit breaker box outside and familiarize yourself with which zone each switch is responsible for. You would then turn off that switch and contact a professional licensed electrician, have them come out and assess the situation and fix the problem. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you found this very informational. Next week, I'll be producing part 2 of this home fire safety video. And in part 2, we will cover home fire alert systems and evacuation planning, fire suppression equipment, and how to use a fire extinguisher. Again, thank you very much for tuning in, and it would be an honor if you can like and subscribe to my channel. Stay safe out there. Thank you. Bye.